Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing with you a cross FlipIt die set from the Stamps of Life, and this will be available on hsn.com. Also included with the cross FlipIt die set is the stamp set on the left, which has the large cross with the swirls, the smaller cross, the large sentiments: pray, faith, hope, God, and then there's some smaller sentiments: God, peace, God's grace, in, just, have, let's, and praise. So you can combine those to form different sayings. So for example, you can say just pray, or just have faith, or praise God. So there's so many ways that you can put that together. Now the stamp set on the right is a separate add-on set that also is available on HSN, and that is called Christian for HSN 1. And those are just various sentiments such as congratulations on your, and then you can say wedding day, baby's christening, first communion, confirmation, and you can also say you're a child of God, congratulations on your baptism, God bless you. So there's various ways that you can mix up those different sentiments. And again, that is an add-on set available on HSN. So the cross FlipIt die set comes with this large die that will make your card base, and you have the cross cut out there in the middle, and you also get your layering dies. The large die on the right is for your back panel of your card base, and the smaller die is for the front panel of your card base. You also get these crosses, there's 3 of them, and you can actually die cut them and layer them one on top of the other. So you have your larger one, then you have a medium-sized one, and you have a smaller one. And the medium-sized one will cut out the cross from the stamp set that I showed you earlier. So I'm going to be making 3 cards with this set, so let's get started with card 1. For card 1, I'm going to be making the FlipIt card, and I'm taking the large die in the set, and I die cut a piece of powdered sugar cardstock, and that is the white cardstock from the Stamps of Life. I will also be using the large and small panel dies from that die set to die cut 2 more pieces of powdered sugar cardstock for my layering pieces on my card base. And then I'm using the Flower Vine and Grid A2 die set where I got this background die from, and I have a piece of mint chip cardstock that I already put double-sided adhesive on the back of it, and I'm going to run this background die through the die cut machine and cut it out of this mint chip cardstock. So I'm just going to layer that large rectangle around the background die, run that through my die cut machine, and when that comes out of the die cut machine, you have this nice elegant background, and you just need to peel the double-sided adhesive backing away and weed out the pieces that you don't need from that die. And I'm actually going to be taking these leaves and I'm going to be putting them on these panel pieces and making my own, almost like my own pattern paper on these panels. I wanted this card to be very elegant, and I thought this would do the trick. Now I'm going to start by layering this directly on this panel and pressing it down, starting in the middle and working my way outward. This cardstock is very sticky because of the double-sided adhesive, so you just have to bear with it if you're going to do something similar to this. Now granted, you can always use pattern paper instead of doing a background die on here and making your own paper, but again, I just chose to do it this way just because I thought it was much more elegant. So here I'm just snipping away the pieces that I don't need. I especially want to snip away that border around the entire edge of that piece of background die that I cut out, and the only thing that I want to have left are the flowers with the vines. So again, just snipping away all the pieces that I don't need, and then those will go in the garbage. And then I'm just going to press down and just make sure that everything is stuck nice and snug to that cardstock layer, and then I'm just going to cut off the excess that's extending beyond that white panel. And once again, if you don't want to take it up a notch like I did and use this background die, you can simply just use these dies and die cut some pattern paper and do the same thing. But I was going for a more elegant look because this is going to be a sympathy card, and I didn't want to use any cute pattern paper, and I really like the way that it ended up being. And you're also going to do the same thing to the smaller piece. So that smaller piece that you die cut, you're going to just do the same thing, die cut another background die, put it on there, and trim off the excess. And those will be your 2 panels for your card base. So that card base, when it comes out of your die cut machine, it has these score lines, and you can also see that it cuts that cross out. Just fold on your score lines. There are 2 score lines there. Just fold them on the fold it on the score lines, and the large panel is always on the right, which is the back of your card, and then the smaller panel is always on the left, which is the front of the card. And anytime you have a FlipIt card from the Stamps of Life, that's how it always is. The larger panels on the right and the smaller panels on the left. So go ahead and adhere those panels down. And now for the crosses. You can see what these die cut crosses look like once they are die cut with your cardstock. And I used almost like a matte metallic gold cardstock. Again, I was going for the more elegant look. You can see how all 3 of these crosses can layer one on top of the other. So you can have a nice dimensional cross. And I'm not going to use the smaller cross, but I am going to use the 2 larger crosses. So the large one and then the medium size one, and I'm going to layer those 2 on top of each other. So I'll just save that smaller one for another project. Next, I'm going to add glue to the back of that, and I'm going to layer that on the cross cutout on the FlipIt card. I also have die cut another large cross. It's going to go on the back side of this cross on my FlipIt card, and I've already stamped out in some Versamark ink a sentiment across the horizontal portion of that cross, and it says sorry for your loss. Actually, it says so sorry for your loss, and I stamped that out with my Versamark ink. That is from the Sorry for Your Loss stamp set from the Stamps of Life. I did put some white embossing powder over top of that, and I'm just going to heat set that, and there's my sentiment. And then I'm just going to add glue to that and add it to the back of my FlipIt card. Another option would be not to add the cross on the back side, so to remove that altogether and just leave it white with the white cardstock showing, and then you can write your message. Otherwise, if you like the idea of putting another cross on the back side, you can always flip your card over and write your message on the back of the card itself. The last thing I did for this card is I layered up some white and mint chip ribbon, and I just tied it in a knot and put it there on the edge of my FlipIt card, and that will complete my card. I just love how this card turned out. Now moving on to card 2. I'm going to show you how you can use these crosses that came with the FlipIt set to just put them on a regular card front. So I'm using the Elegant Edge A2 card die set from the Stamps of Life, and I've already die cut several pieces. I have the large card base cut out of some lemonade cardstock, and I also have the top layering piece cut out of some pretty pattern paper. And that pattern paper is from the Together collection paper pad from the Stamps of Life. And it looks like that. I have also die cut 2 of the crosses, the larger one out of the lemonade and the medium-sized one out of the powdered sugar cardstock. And yes, those will be layered one on top of the other. This die set also comes with this die that I used the die to cut out some leaves in the Kiwi cardstock. So I have 3 sets of leaves there. It also comes with this die, which I die cut a flower in the powdered sugar and a flower in the lemonade cardstock. Next, I'm going to just do some ink blending on the edges of my die cuts. So I'm taking my Kiwi ink and I'm adding ink to the edges of all 3 of my leaves. Next, I'm going to be taking the lemonade ink and I'm going to be adding some lemonade ink to the edges of both of those crosses. So yes, the lemonade one as well as the white one is also going to get the lemonade ink. I think that will just add a nice, pretty texture there. Also, the lemonade ink is going to be added to the flowers, both of those flowers. Next, I'm going to take that panel that I die cut out of the pattern paper, add that to the front of my card base, and I'm going to take this gingham ribbon, it's in a kiwi and white gingham, and just tie it around the top of that card and then just snip off the edges in a diagonal. Next, I'm going to add just a little dot of hot glue underneath the center of that bow. I always like to do that when I have bows, just to kind of keep it down on that cardstock. Next, I'm going to layer up the crosses, and then add it to the center of that card front. Now, because of the ribbon being there and it's just an extra layer, I am going to add some hot glue behind that at the top just to make sure that it adheres fully to that card. Now I'm just positioning the leaves and the flower where I want them on the front of my card. And once I have them exactly where I want them, I'm just going to remove that flower and then hold my finger down on those leaves so that they stay in place. And I'm going to add some glue just to the ends of those leaves. Now here I'm just putting glue on the ends, and my whole goal was to kind of leave the bottoms of those so that they're not completely adhered to the paper. But you'll see later on in the video that I will go ahead and adhere the whole thing down to the paper, just because when this card is mailed, I just didn't want the leaves to potentially break off. So you see me there putting glue in the center of the flower and layering those flowers. Now the flower does have the dimension on it. You can actually lift those leaves up, or I should say lift the petals up, and it will add some nice dimension there. And then I'm just putting an epoxy dot right in the center. So you can see here is where I actually ended up attaching those leaves fully to the cardstock. And you can also see that nice dimension of the petals there on that flower. So again, to get that dimension, just glue down the center of that flower only. Don't put glue on the petals. Here I stamped out a sentiment onto a stitched oval die. The sentiment is actually from the same stamp set as the previous card. It's the Sorry for Your Loss stamp set from the Stamps of Life, and I just added that to the center. And if you're ever looking for a really nice sympathy sentiment stamp set, do check that one out because it's a really good one. So here's my finished card. Now moving on to my third card. I stamped using the stamps that came with the FlipIt card. I stamped out that beautiful cross onto some Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I stamped it out with some VersaFine ink, and I put some clear embossing powder over top of that and heat set it. And I did the same with the sentiment, Just Pray. So again, stamped it out onto the cardstock with some VersaFine black ink, added some clear embossing powder, and then just heat set that. And now I'm coloring up this image with my Arteza Real Brush pens in the colors Royal Blue, Bumblebee Yellow, and Cadmium Orange. And I'm loving how this looks because to me it almost seems like a stained glass window effect. And also what's really neat about doing the embossing here is that I'm finding that as I color with the Real Brush pens that it's very easy to stay within the lines and not leak that ink out into the other parts of that image. Now this paper was cut into a 4 by 5 1/4 sheet, and then I had a piece of blue foil paper that was cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and that is layered on top of an A2 size card base in the banana color from the Stamps of Life. And I'm just adding these little sequins here with my art glitter glue and putting a few epoxy dots, and that will complete this card. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I hope you enjoyed the 3 cards that I made with this set, and if you enjoyed this set, hop on over to the hsn.com website and do a search for the Stamps of Life and search for the Cross Flip It, and you should see it over there. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more card making inspiration. Have a great day. Bye-bye.